March 23rd, 1943, 06:15 hours. A ridge overlooking the El Ghoutar Valley, Tunisia. The desert morning is deceptively cold. The air doesn't smell of sage or sand. It smells of stale sweat, ozone, and the acrid, metallic scent of recycled engine oil. Oberleutnant Hans Weber presses his chest against the jagged limestone of the ridge, the grit digging into his tunic. His uniform, once the crisp tropical olive of the Deutsches Afrika Korps, is now bleached nearly white by the sun and stiff with weeks of accumulated filth. Beside him, Gefreiter Lang adjusts the feed tray of an MG-42. The movement is sluggish. They haven't eaten a full ration in 3 days. Their water is a warm, magnesium-tasting sludge at the bottom of a jerry can. "Engine noise, Herr Oberleutnant," Lang whispers, not taking his eyes off the valley floor below. "East. Sounds heavy." Weber lifts his Zeiss binoculars. The lenses are scratched, but the magnification is still sharp. He expects to see a probing force, maybe a few British Crusaders, or perhaps a pair of those tall, awkward American Lees that look more like farm tractors than tanks. He scans the horizon, looking for the telltale silhouette of armor. Instead, he sees the dust. It isn't a plume. It is a wall. A towering, opaque curtain of brown earth, rising thousands of feet into the blue sky, stretching from the northern horizon to the southern edge of his vision. The ground beneath Weber's chest begins to vibrate, a low, rhythmic thrumming that resonates in his teeth. This isn't the chaotic clatter of tracks. It is the deep, synchronized drone of thousands of heavy engines. "Is that a storm?" Lang asks, his voice cracking. "No," Weber murmurs, focusing the lenses until the base of the dust cloud comes into view. "It's a convoy." Through the glass, the scale of it hits Weber like a physical blow. Leading the pack are the jeeps, buzzing like angry hornets, antennas whipping in the wind. But behind them comes the muscle, the trucks, the GMC CCKW deuce and a halfs. They are moving two abreast on the narrow track, a river of olive drab steel. Weber counts them. 10, 20, 50. He stops counting at 100. They are still coming, and they aren't empty. In the cargo beds, he sees crates of ammunition stacked high. He sees brave new uniforms. He sees pallets of sea rations, spare tank tracks, tires and drums, endless drums of fuel. The Americans aren't just bringing an army. They are bringing a city. Weber lowers the binoculars, his mouth suddenly dry. He looks back at his own unit's transport parked in the defilade behind the ridge, an Opel Blitz truck with a shattered windshield running on 3 bald tires and a prayer. Yesterday, they had to siphon gasoline from a destroyed Italian staff car just to move the Opel 5 kilometers. They are counting every single round of 7.92 millimeter ammunition. Down in the valley, the Americans are burning more fuel in a single hour of idling than Weber's entire battalion has seen in a month. "It doesn't end," Lang says, staring with naked horror. He doesn't need binoculars to see it now. The snake of vehicles extends back beyond the horizon, vanishing into the heat haze. This moment, right here on this ridge, is where the myth of the Aryan Superman dies for Hans Weber. For years, propaganda told them that the Americans were soft, that their mongrel society couldn't organize a war effort, that the U-boats were starving them out in the Atlantic. But looking at that convoy, Weber realizes the terrifying truth. The U-boats missed. The factories in Detroit and Pittsburgh are running 24 hours a day, and they have built a bridge of ships across the ocean. The logistical disparity is nauseating. The Germans are fighting a war of craftsmanship, repairing their Tigers and Panzer IVs with unparalleled skill and ingenuity. The Americans are fighting a war of mass production. They don't repair, they replace. "What do we do?" Lang asks, his hand trembling near the trigger of the machine gun. Weber watches a flight of P-40 Warhawks scream overhead, escorting the convoy. They are flying low, confident, unopposed. The Luftwaffe is nowhere to be seen. They have no fuel to fly. "We mark the coordinates," Weber says, his voice hollow. "We call it in to artillery." He reaches for the field telephone, cranking the handle. He gets the battery commander on the line. "Target reference Dora 7. Massive troop and supply movement." "Understood," the voice on the other end crackles. "How many rounds do you need for effect?" Weber looks back at the valley. The convoy has filled the entire basin now. It looks like a migration of metallic wildebeest. "All of them," Weber says. "Fire everything you have. It won't make a dent." As the first German shells whistle overhead, exploding harmlessly alongside the road, the American column doesn't even stop. A few trucks swerve, soldiers duck, but the river of steel keeps flowing. They have so much material that they don't need to stop for caution. They can afford to lose a truck, or 10, or 100. Weber watches a burning American truck get shoved off the road by a bulldozer that was seemingly waiting for just such an occasion. The wreck is pushed into a ditch, and the convoy resumes its pace within seconds. The efficiency is colder and more frightening than any bayonet charge. It is the industrial crushing of the human spirit. Weber realizes that no amount of tactical brilliance, no amount of Iron Cross bravery can stop this. They aren't fighting soldiers anymore. They are fighting a mathematical impossibility. April 28th, 1943, 14:30 hours. The slopes of Jebel Tahent, Hill 609, northern Tunisia. The war has moved north, compressing the Axis forces into a final, suffocating pocket, and the heat has turned the rocky slopes of Hill 609 into a frying pan. Oberleutnant Weber crouches in a foxhole that feels more like a grave. The ground shudders violently, not from engines this time, but from the recoil of the beast parked 20 meters to his left. It is a Tiger I tank, a 60-ton fortress of Zimmerit-coated steel. Its long 88-millimeter barrel is stained black with soot. "Fire!" the tank commander screams from the cupola. The gun roars. The shockwave kicks up a cloud of limestone dust that coats Weber's face. 700 meters down the slope, an American M4 Sherman shudders as the high-velocity shell punches through its frontal armor like a needle through canvas. A split second later, the Sherman erupts. A pillar of greasy black smoke joins a dozen others rising from the valley floor. "That's 6, Gefreiter Lang yells over the ringing in their ears. He is cheering, shaking his fist at the burning wrecks below. "They can't get past us. The Taiga is invincible." Technically, Lang is right. In a one-on-one duel, the American Shermans are hopelessly outclassed. Their short, 75mm guns bounce harmlessly off the Tiger's thick hide, unless they get suicidally close. Weber watches the German panzer crew work with the precision of surgeons. They pivot, acquire, and kill. It is a masterclass in tactical warfare. But Weber isn't cheering. He is counting again. Through the gaps in the smoke, he sees movement. Behind the line of burning American hulks, fresh shapes are emerging from the olive groves. More Shermans. They don't charge blindly. They move in packs, 5 or 6 for every one German tank. They are cautious, probing, communicating. The Tiger commander, a scarred veteran named Holzer, leans out of his hatch, looking down at Weber. His face is smeared with oil and exhaustion. "Oberleutnant, we are down to 4 armor-piercing rounds. Where is the supply truck?" Weber checks his watch, the crystal cracked. "It was supposed to be here an hour ago." "My fuel gauge is on empty," Holzer spits, slamming his hand against the steel turret. "I have the high ground. I have the targets, but I am becoming a pillbox because I cannot move." As if to mock them, the wind shifts, carrying the sounds of the enemy lines up the hill. Amidst the gunfire, Weber hears the distinct, high-pitched whine of American engines revving freely. He sees a cluster of Shermans pulling back behind a ridge, not to retreat, but to refuel. A tanker truck has driven right up to the front line, unbothered by the threat of Luftwaffe strafing runs that never come. They are topping off their tanks in the middle of a battle. It is a display of arrogance that makes Weber's stomach turn. The Americans treat combat like a shift at a factory. When a machine breaks, they bring a new one. When it runs dry, they fill it up. "Target! 2 o'clock!" Lang shouts. 3 Shermans break cover, rushing the Tiger's flank. Holzer drops back into the turret. The 88mm swings, heavy and lethal. Boom! The lead Sherman loses a track, spinning wildly into a ditch. The crew bails out, sprinting for cover. But the other 2 keep coming. They are firing on the move, inaccurate, desperate shots that ping off the Tiger's armor like hail. They are trying to distract the beast. "Load HE!" Holzer screams inside the tank. "I'm out of AP! We have no HE left!" The loader's voice cracks over the external intercom. The Tiger, the pinnacle of German engineering, the predator of the battlefield, falls silent. It has run out of teeth. "Driver, reverse! Get us behind the ridge!" Holzer orders. The engine coughs, spewing a thick cloud of blue smoke, and dies. Silence follows. A heavy, terrifying silence, broken only by the approaching clatter of American tracks. "Scheiße," Holzer whispers. No fuel. Weber watches the tragedy unfold in slow motion. The crew of the Tiger begins to bail out. These men, who have trained for years, who operate a machine worth millions of Reichsmarks, are forced to abandon it intact because of a few liters of synthetic gasoline. They scramble down the hull, grabbing MP-40s and grenades, reduced to fighting as infantry. The American Shermans realize the gun is silent. They stop maneuvering and start advancing. They don't even bother to destroy the abandoned Tiger immediately. They just drive past it, focused on the next objective. They know they have won, not by skill, but by suffocation. "Fall back," Weber orders his men, grabbing Lang by the shoulder. "To the secondary line!" As they scramble up the rocky scree, retreating from the position they successfully defended, Weber looks back. An American recovery vehicle, A massive, heavy wrecker is already moving up the slope toward the disabled Sherman that lost its track. They are going to fix it. They are going to put the track back on, hose out the blood, and send it back into the fight by tomorrow morning. Germany can't replace a bolt without a requisition form signed in Berlin. America is fixing tanks on the battlefield while the barrels are still hot. The retreat is bitter. They are walking backward toward the sea, and the sea offers no escape.
May 12th, 1943, 11 o'clock hours. The beaches of Cape Bon, Tunisia. The Mediterranean Sea glitters a brilliant, mocking turquoise behind them. There is nowhere left to run. The Afrika Korps, the legendary force that once threatened the Suez Canal, has been compressed into a narrow thumb of land, jutting out into the water. The noise of battle has been replaced by a strange, industrial clatter. It is the sound of an army dismantling itself. Oberlieutenant Weber stands by the surf, watching his men. They are not fighting. They are smashing their rifles against rocks. They are stripping the bolts from their machine guns and hurling them into the waves. Behind them, a column of thick black smoke rises where the last of the staff cars are burning, ignited by their own drivers to prevent capture. "It's over, sir," Lang says quietly. He is sitting in the sand, his boots off, wrapping a bloody blister on his heel with a strip of dirty rag. He looks like a ghost, gaunt, hollow-eyed, his uniform hanging off his frame like a scarecrow's rags. Weber nods. He unbuckles his belt, feeling the weight of his Luger pistol. He looks at it for a moment, a precision instrument of German steel, and then tosses it into the dune grass. It lands with a dull thud. "Get the men in formation," Weber says, his voice raspy. "We march to the road. We find an American." The surrender is not a singular event. It is a landslide. As Weber leads his platoon toward the main coastal road, they join a stream of humanity that widens into a river. Italians, Germans, infantry, artillerymen, mechanics. There is no defiant last stand. They are simply too exhausted, too hungry, and too aware of the futility. At the crossroads, they encounter the victors. A group of American GIs leans against a half-track, chewing gum, their helmets tilted back. They don't look like the monsters propaganda painted them to be. They look bored. They look healthy. "All right, keep it moving, Fritzes," an MP shouts, waving a baton lazily. "Trucks are waiting up ahead." Weber braces himself for the humiliation. He expects to be marched for miles, to be treated with the same harshness the Wehrmacht often dealt out. Instead, he is directed toward a line of waiting transport trucks, empty trucks. The Americans have sent a taxi service. Weber climbs into the back of a canvas-covered GMC truck, squeezing in with 20 other silent, defeated men. The engine roars to life, strong, rhythmic, fueled by that endless supply of gasoline. As the truck lurches forward, heading west toward the holding cages, Weber peers out the back flap. What he sees destroys the last remnants of his worldview. They pass a supply depot the Americans have set up near Matur. It stretches for miles. It is a city of logistics. Weber sees mountains, literal mountains, of wooden crates. He sees fields of spare tires stacked 20 feet high. He sees a field kitchen where cooks are tossing entire sides of beef onto grills, the smoke smelling of fat and salt. A scent so rich it makes his stomach cramp with hunger. He sees a soldier opening a crate, taking out a pair of boots, trying them on, and tossing his old ones, which look perfectly serviceable to Weber, into a trash pile. "Look at that," Lang whispers, pointing to a group of American soldiers sitting on crates, drinking from glass bottles. "Is that Coca-Cola?" "Iced," Weber notes, seeing the condensation dripping from the glass. "They have refrigeration units. Here, in the desert." The truck finally stops at a temporary POW enclosure. The gates open and the prisoners stumble out. They are met not by firing squads, but by a chaotic abundance. An American corporal shoves a cardboard box into Weber's hands. It's a K ration. Weber opens it with trembling fingers. Inside, there is a tin of ham and eggs. There are biscuits, a fruit bar, a packet of soluble coffee, sugar, a stick of chewing gum, and 4 cigarettes. He looks around. Every single man in his platoon holds the same box. Thousands of them. The Americans have enough pre-packaged meals to feed the entire captured army without making a dent in their inventory. Weber unwraps the fruit bar and takes a bite. The sweetness is overwhelming. He looks at Lang, who is weeping silently as he eats a biscuit, overwhelmed by the simple shock of calories. It wasn't the shrapnel or the Shermans that defeated them, Weber realizes. It was this. It was the chewing gum. It was the iced soda. It was the endless convoys that turned war into a logistical formality. Germany had tried to conquer the world with warrior spirit and precision engineering. America had simply paved over them with mass production. Weber sits in the dust of the holding pen, surrounded by the murmur of thousands of defeated men eating American food. He takes a drag of the American cigarette. It burns smooth, unlike the harsh German tobacco he is used to. He looks up at the sky, clear of Luftwaffe planes, filled only with the drone of American transports flying in more supplies for a battle that is already won. "We never had a chance," Weber whispers to the desert wind.